This is the first episode that we've ever had a girl on. This would be my friend Lauren.
Just know, chat, it didn't have to go like this. Didn't have to be like this, chat. Really didn't. But, you've chosen violence. We like being punished. You guys really do. Alright. So, chat. Obviously, one of the most insufferable and most closely aligned with neo-Nazism political commentators on the right, who's essentially a crypto-Nazi, Michael Knowles, has a show called Real Answers and Real Drinks. And guess who he had on his show recently? He had on Lauren Southern, a political streamer who is for some reason allowed on Twitch, despite having been the flashpoint and inspiration for not one, but multiple mass shootings. And one of the people most responsible for mainstreaming Great Replacement Theory, which you'll also note inspired the Buffalo shooter, and the New Zealand mosque shooter, and several other mass shootings. Wait, she's not banned on Twitch anymore? I think she only got a temporary attempt ban, Entrama. So, anyway, let's enjoy this drinking program, and if you have yourself an alcoholic beverage, feel free to drink along. Yeah, she's unbanned. Yep. Honestly, if there's one thing Twitch can do to show that it supports minority communities, it's banning Lauren Southern, okay? Anyway, here we go!
Gay duck. And to be a gay duck in the United Arab Emirates. Lauren, please don't downplay that. Welcome to another episode of Yes or No. This is a very special episode because this is the first episode that we've ever had a girl on. This would be my friend Lauren Southern. Lauren, the filmmaker behind American Mirage, coming out soon. Lots of other great projects. Lauren only recently welcomed back into America. I think previously you were barred from this country.
I was, but first I have some horrendous news for you.
Okay.
I'm legally a man in Canada. Did you just call me a woman? I'm legally a man. Are you?
Oh, yes. Okay, this is good.
Yeah, remember Lauren Southern came on Twitch to be like, oh, I've rebranded and my politics are less virulent and openly hateful. And yet she just unapologetically refers to things that she did prior to being on Twitch. This is the content you're watching? Yeah, no, they have one joke. Yeah, Lauren Southern's go-to joke is that she went through the legal process of changing her gender in Canada. Yep. She didn't try it, she successfully did it. Just gotta say, pretty weird that Lauren Southern hasn't committed to the bit fully and started taking tea, okay?
Good. No, I'm so glad that you reminded me of this because I felt, look, I'm a married man. Okay, I generally follow the Mike Pence rule. I try not to go drinking with ladies. It's not a good.
Yeah, if you can't trust yourself getting a drink with a lady who's your friend, ostensibly, that says way more about you than, like, the health of your relationship.
Look, okay, men and women are different, but I am so pleased to be reminded that you are, in fact,
and drinking, it's a man's game, you know? Down to the pub, have some cigars. This is for us men only.
You're right, just for us fellas. Are you ready for the game?
I think so.
Okay.
I guess so. Yes.
Well, because I forgot you were a man, I prepared for ladies to go first.
Lauren, Australia is somehow even worse than Canada. All right.
No, I'm afraid you got that wrong.
What?
Yeah, Australia is not worse than Canada. Because Australia is a prison colony.
Yeah, honestly, Vivian, like the idea that like Michael Knowles tries to set himself up as like some kind of alpha male or like whatever, he's literally the least masculine man. One of the least I've ever seen.
It's full of really tough, wild old guys, Crocodile Dundee, that sort of thing. They've got a much funnier accent.
Okay, well, you got yours right.
I did. Good. Okay. Cheers.
I will just drink whenever,
Of course.
during the
That's
game.
really the way to play.
I also think often about how it's hard being a conservative in this world right now and wanting to promote, staying away from the vices.
Yeah.
How are you supposed to not be an alcoholic?
Well,
when things are the state they are.
That's true. And listen, everything in moderation.
They are telling on themselves so hard.
I mean, it's almost noontime around. It's almost lunchtime. It's 5 o'clock somewhere right now.
Too true.
Okay, so now I read one. Brunettes are taken more seriously and are more trustworthy than blondes. How would you answer that?
Oh, I've mixed things up here.
You did. I'm generally unobservant, so I hadn't noticed until now you've changed. Not only your sex, but your hair color.
No. You can change your gender in Canada without changing your sex. The same shit they play all the time. Conservatives play at being dumb about the difference between sex and gender, but then they live their lives because sex and gender are different things, and they live their lives that way. LB, awooga!
You got it right.
You got it right, too.
I know.
So neither of us drink?
It's so obvious. I don't
Can I drink anyway?
Of course.
Wonderful.
We
like
won.
this game.
We won. Why wouldn't we drink?
You have to drink when you lose, and you get to drink when you win.
That's
Wonderful.
the right attitude.
It is more likely that Justin Trudeau is the son of Fidel Castro than Joe Biden won a fair election in 2020.
This is going to require.
Yo. You know what? I think that this is chat. This is a very valuable insight. This is a very valuable insight into the conservative mind. The kind of mind that is absolutely batshit insane and hates gay and trans people, alright? Is this right-wing comedy? You'd think it would be right-wing comedy, but they just unironically believe these things. It's not comedy. It's just what they believe.
High-level logic. Seriously, it's more likely
Some high-level ideas.
That Justin Trudeau is the son of Fidel Castro than Joe Biden won a fair election.
Okay.
Depends. Okay.
Of course. And I'll say for the record, I actually don't think that Justin is Fidel Castro's son. I know that his mother was an eccentric character. I know that they were friends with the Castros. I know that Justin Trudeau looks exactly like Fidel Castro. Intellectually, spiritually, and physically. I know.
What? Sorry, wait. Is that even true? Justin Trudeau image. Okay, here we go. This is Justin Trudeau, everybody. So here's young Fidel Castro. And Justin Trudeau. I mean, they look kind of similar, I guess, but like the chin is totally different, the mouth, the nose is different, eyebrows are different, hairline is different, the ears are different. So they look alike in that they are both man-like and have all of the parts on their faces, but other than that, they do not look alike at all.
But I actually see a little bit of his father in him.
Yeah, it's a toss-up. It's a fun meme, though. I appreciate it. I respect the people who are spreading misinformation on the internet.
And by the way, at the very least,
you got to fight misinformation with misinformation.
Of course, no, you do, and you can pretty much do anything for a meme. But certainly, we can say it is much more likely that Fidel Castro is the father of Justin than that Joe Biden won a fair election. They rigged the whole damn thing. They said the big tech oligarchs said you couldn't spread true information about Biden corruption. They changed all the rules in the weeks before the election. They violated the state constitution of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, this is what I find interesting is, to me, it doesn't have to be anything to do with the ballots. Just the state of the media. I saw leftists jumping up and down about Viktor Orbán's win in Hungary, and they were like,
terrible,
Lauren, this
awful, autocratic...
yeah, that horrible man.
Of Europe, yeah.
They said this is an unfair election, Lauren, because they banned, media companies that were opposed to Viktor. They banned all of these, NGOs and everything. And I'm like, so what is it in America when all these right-wing outlets get censored? Was that an
Who was censoring the outlets, Lauren? Who was doing the censoring? Did Joe Biden and did Donald Trump censor his own election? No. Media companies having the ability to do things on their platform is part of free speech. Sorry. That's not censorship. That's just freedom of speech. God.
unfair election then? All right, if that's the rule, fine.
Right.
Also, Viktor Orbán literally controls his government and is able to crack down on media that disagrees with him. That's the key difference. One is government censorship, and the other is just platforms enforcing their TOS so that conservatives can't say the N-word.
I loved one time Viktor Orbán was accused of all the same stuff that anyone to the right of Hillary Clinton gets accused of. You know, you're a racist, anti-Semitic, this, that, and the other thing. He goes, why you say I'm anti-Semitic? They said, well, because you've criticized George Soros. So, well, if that qualifies you as anti-Semitic, and he said it very plainly, he said, George Soros is a Hungarian and a major political rival of mine who spends a lot of money trying to remove me from power. I think I get to criticize him. I think I get to push back a little.
I think the most anti-Semitic thing you can possibly say is that George Soros represents all Jews.
I've never heard Jew hatred any worse than suggesting.
Yeah.
Very good point. Should we drink?
Oh yeah, again, wonderful. Love that. Should have asked for
just for the record here. Viktor Orbán has been in power in Hungary since 2010, so 12 years now. And let's see. In 2020, Orbán ended legal recognition of transgender people. In 2021, they voted to censor any LGBT plus positive content in movies, books, or public advertisements. Now, like they're talking about like, America has way more censorship than Hungary. Viktor Orbán literally passed censorship laws to prevent any positive like messaging around queer topics in the country. They also voted to severely restrict sex ed in schools, forbidding any information thought to, and I'm going to quote here, encourage gender change or homosexuality. Yeah. Goodness. Yeah, also, just as an FYI, while all of the grooming allegations are going around in the United States related to LGBTQ teachers, in Hungary, Viktor Orbán has announced that LGBTQ representation in education is going to go to a national forum that will also be held during the parliamentary election, and it will be described as child protection issues against LGBTQ people, meaning that they are specifically framing LGBTQ issues in Hungary as a threat to children. Like, queer people having rights is in direct opposition to children being protected. Yeah. So that's a thing. Also, keep in mind, these people are like, oh, how could Hungary be anti-Semitic? How could Viktor Orbán be anti-Semitic? What has he said that's anti-Semitic? Here's from a 2018 speech. And this is a direct quote, by the way. "We must state that we do not want to be diverse and do not want to be mixed. We do not want our own color, traditions, and national culture to be mixed with those of others. We do not want this. We do not want that at all. We do not want to be a diverse country." Yeah, like, that isn't just, like, racist. That's, also anti-Semitic, okay? Just throwing it out there. Anyone that isn't considered Hungarian national or traditional or traditionally colored should not be mixed with anyone else. That is specifically what he said. Yeah, it's like everything is. Sounds almost ethnostatey. It's not almost ethnostatey. It is ethnostatey. So yeah, that's the people. That's the person they're really hyping up and putting praise on. That's the person, by the way, that Dennis Prager also praises. Dennis Prager goes to Hungary all the time. What these people are doing, by the way, is normalizing. They are normalizing authoritarian governments, and they are normalizing nationalistic governments, and they are normalizing the discrimination against LGBTQ people and other minorities who are non-white, who are non-Christian. They are normalizing this behavior and trying to lay the groundwork for a similar movement in the United States.
Homosexuality is more nature than nurture.
Ooh. Ooh.
Oh. You were right.
Good. I see they both believe that if you're raised in a certain way, you become gay or trans. Cool.
You were wrong.
I was wrong. You say it's homosexuality.
Shit. Lauren Southern, more leftist than Michael Knowles.
Is more nature than nurture.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that I find it difficult to think you could indoctrinate a man out of wanting sex with a woman.
What if you put him in prison?
Yeah, that's environmental for sure.
But you're saying he would still probably prefer the woman.
Yes. Yeah, so that there are men that in a free environment where they could sleep with women, choose to sleep with men instead. I find that very interesting. I think it's also like a sex drive thing. Like men, and gay men in particular, tend to have like very, very high sex drives. And they're just like, you know what? Women aren't going to keep up.
So,
Forget about it.
That is.
I'm just going to listen to that again.
And they're like men, and gay men in particular, tend to have like very, very high sex drives. And they're just.
No.
It's like, you know what? Women aren't going to keep up.
So,
Forget about it.
That is.
What world does Lauren Southern live in where women are just getting so satisfied by dick that they're being left satisfied every single time they have sex with a straight man? Yeah, like what type of world does she come from where like straight men are consistently giving orgasms. Okay, like I need to be honest with you guys. I know people who've been straight and having sex their entire lives, and women who are straight and have been having sex their entire lives who have never experienced an orgasm. Okay? The idea that, like, men are just too sexual for women to handle is weird and wild and inaccurate. I don't know. That did kind of give me, like, bisexual vibes, DB Raymond. Or wait, very knifey duck. That's right. Couldn't it indicate a higher rate of bisexuality, which society tends to suppress? I don't know. I hate these two. I mean, it could indicate that too, but also I don't think gay men are having obnoxiously more sex than straight people. I just think that gay men tend to have more one-night stands, but that's more a result of, like, societal, like, circumstance.
I do remember in my teenage years, sometimes friends would say, if only I had been made a gay man, I would be so much happier, you know, I would have all of my desires fulfilled.
Really? You had a bunch of straight friends who were talking about how they wished they were gay. Michael Knowles, I don't think those friends were straight. I don't think they were straight. Straight people don't wish that they could have sex with other men or other women, okay? God. Yeah, we all just watched the volleyball scene from Top Gun on repeat, and, you know, they said they just wish they could have sex with more men. This again, guys, this isn't comedy. This is just what they believe.
The reason I say no, and that you correctly guessed my answer, is not because I think that people aren't born with a certain attraction or desire or anything like that. You know, sometimes people will argue that there's no way that there's any biological or genetic or early infant basis for sexual attraction. And I think, well, that's crazy. Why not? And they'll say, because God doesn't make mistakes or something. Well, I think, you know, people are born with 6 fingers. I don't know. People are born with all sorts of, this is a fallen world. There are all sorts of peculiarities and eccentricities. But the reason I say that homosexuality is more nurture, really I would say, I guess it's more culture, is that there's a difference between...
homosexuality is really a culture, says the man who definitely doesn't want to eliminate gays from society.
Between having a sexual desire and indulging that sexual desire, or creating a sexual identity based on that desire. True. I mean, the very idea of homosexuality...
he's making the tradcath argument of, like, look, you can think that men are sexy as fuck and get, like, a hard dick from, like, seeing a man with his shirt off, but that doesn't mean you have to actually have sex with a man. Like, that would be wrong. But, like, I don't know, getting hard and maybe, like, you know, stroking but not coming, like, nothing wrong with that, okay?
Sexuality is very modern. Not because some guys didn't want to shtup other guys in the past, but just the idea that that was a sexual identity. Look back at the ancient Greeks. They were all shtupping each other, but they didn't view themselves as liberace or something like that. There seems to be a huge amount of culture here. The idea that, what is it now, more than...
Yeah, I wonder why a group of humans that have been largely forced to segregate themselves into distinct communities for, like, centuries now, would develop a distinct culture and affect. Curious. I wonder how that would come to be, Michael Knowles.
Greater than 1 in 5 Gen Z youth identify as LGBT, up from historically about 1%.
Yeah.
Either.
Historically, why would it be so low, Michael? Could it be because there were literally laws against being gay or having gay sex?
Alex Jones is right, and there's something in the water. And he actually was right about the water with the frogs. But in addition to that, you might say that there's some cultural phenomenon going on here.
I agree with that. When it comes to especially
the cultural phenomenon of it being safer to be publicly gay.
like 72 different genders and pronoun stuff, I think that is absolutely nurture. Yeah. But when it comes to like the actual like sexual stuff that we've seen,
the desire,
the dawn of time, you know, that to me, there is a nature aspect.
But it's a really good point because you can take it outside of sex too. I mean,
wait, Lauren Southern, you mean that all of the gender identities and language we have for sex and sexuality and gender are not things we found carved in stone? They aren't laws of the universe. We can come up with new terms for new things or more distinct things as needed. Crazy, yo.
And what you're describing is that people have a kind of lower will. They have an appetite, whether it's a natural desire or a desire that has been inculcated into us. We have these things, but then we have a rational will, and we can say, well, I actually don't want to do this. You know, I don't want to have the 10th beer. I mean, I do, but I don't want to have 20 more cookies.
I love that his first example was like, I don't want to have the 10th beer, but actually I do. When he's making an analogy to gay sex, which does not surprise me.
But I'm going to get a stomachache, right? You have that higher will, and that's why you can say the things I want to do, I don't do, and the things that I don't want to do, I do. And so leaving aside, even for a moment, the morality of engaging in homosexual behavior, certainly you have to admit there is a social and a cultural aspect to all of that over whether or not you're going to do it in the first place.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
All right. Well, we've already gotten you canceled. You just called every gay guy in America a rapist, I think. Okay. So now.
It's not a good.
I was listening to that back and forth. I didn't hear Lauren Southern. Look, I don't like Lauren Southern, but I didn't hear her say every gay guy in America is a rapist. That's insane. Can we play it back? Yes.
Good. That to me, there is a nature aspect.
But it's a really good point because you can take it outside of sex too. I mean, what you're describing is that people have a kind of lower will. They have an appetite, whether it's a natural desire or a desire that has been inculcated into us. We have these things, but then we have a rational will, and we can say, well, I actually don't want to do this. You know, I don't want to have the 10th beer. I mean, I do, but I don't want to have 20 more cookies. I'm going to get a stomachache, right? You have that higher will, and that's why you can say the things I want to do, I don't do, and the things that I don't want to do, I do. And so leaving aside, even for a moment, the morality of engaging in homosexual behavior, certainly you have to admit there is a social and a cultural aspect to all of that over whether or not you're going to do it in the first place.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
All right. Well, we've already gotten you canceled. You just called every gay guy in America a rapist, I think. Okay. So now.
It's not a good show if you don't get a Media Matters article out of it.
Yeah, that's a weird thing to say. Also, chat, just for people who are coming in, at 50 subs, we will, or the equivalent in donos, I will go put on my makeup for the night. And also, if we make it to 100, I will put on my Pride Month outfit, which is very good. And I believe not TOS-able. So, was that supposed to be humor? Very knifey duck, yes. To conservatives, calling all gay people rapists is both humor and also what they believe.
The immigration crisis at the American southern border is more important than Russia invading Ukraine.
You were right.
I only say that because you're American, though.
So was I right?
I'm torn. You should put the drink in the middle.
If you stand in the middle of the road, Lauren, you're going to get hit by a truck.
I just finished a documentary on the American border crisis, and I think it's extremely important. But obviously, if you're Ukrainian, if you're Russian, that's going to be more important to you. And then the geopolitical fallout, all of that, it's hard to say. It's hard to say.
How can America make the argument?
Yeah, how will a lot of labor coming into America, how will that be like more or less important than, or rather, God, my joke slipped. But I really like that they're trying to realistically make the argument that undocumented immigrants who are less likely to commit crime than domestic Americans is somehow a bigger problem when it provides affordable labor. Not giving Bezos money. Also, can you explain the trans agenda? Wrong answers only. People laugh. I'll show you the trans agenda in a minute. But they're literally trying to say that a cheap labor force coming into America that has a lower propensity for criminality and positively impacts domestic worker wages and also contributes taxes to the United States government is somehow worse than Russia, a nuclear power, invading Ukraine and escalating like the threat of like war around the world and causing global disruption of supply chains. Somehow this is what one is not as bad. And it's the invasion and global disruption one. Without undocumented immigrants, our economy as it currently is constituted would literally collapse. Absolutely. Like, I mean, guys, I went over this about a year ago, but when Trump was cracking down on the border, like, the people who pick our food, who, like, harvest the crops in our country, just didn't exist. The wages were way too low to get domestic laborers to go and do that in enough numbers that it would actually, like, reap in the full harvest.
Ukraine's borders are sacred if we don't believe in our own borders.
Yeah.
It's simple enough to me. I'm not saying it's even describing the threats to the world order, although I do think that in America without borders, which is to say in America that's not really a nation, I think that's a huge threat to the world order. If we're supposed to be the global hegemon, and we can't even control our own borders. But furthermore, if the argument is nations should have their borders respected, big, powerful countries, although, frankly, Russia seems less powerful than I think a lot of us believed it would be before the invasion, but big, powerful countries shouldn't invade smaller, weaker countries. Well, how can we make that argument when we won't protect our own borders?
Yeah. I think back to, like, the old bench.
Yeah, because natural, like, immigration due to economic concerns is the same as a nuclear power invading with an entire army with the purpose of subjugating people.
Shapiro debates on TV about gun control and him saying, but we have to, the Second Amendment is for, you know, if there's an invading force, it's not for just going to your gun range.
You're right.
And having
It's not for
fun.
hunting deer.
And everyone would just laugh at that and say, when is that going to happen?
Right.
Because we've got a, 50-year at best memory span, right? And every other nation on earth, especially China, Russia, they're thinking on 100-year timelines, not 4-year election cycles. They're
Is she... Sorry, I need to listen to this argument again.
Invade smaller, weaker countries. Well, how can we make that argument when we won't protect our own borders?
Yeah. I think back to the old Ben Shapiro debates on TV about gun control and him saying, but we have the Second Amendment is for, if there's an invading force, it's not for just going to your gun range
Right.
and having
It's not for
fun.
hunting deer.
And everyone would just laugh at that and say, when is that going to happen?
Right.
Because we've got a, 50-year at best memory span, right?
Yeah, because if the people of Hawaii had been armed during the bombing of Pearl Harbor, that would have stopped it somehow? This is literal brain rot. Sorry, the argument that, like, people should be armed in the United States in case a foreign power tries to invade is insane shit. absolutely insane shit, especially in the age of nuclear armament.
States and every other nation on earth, especially China, Russia, they're thinking on 100-year timelines, not 4-year election cycles. They're like, okay, we have been shamed. We've had those years of shame. We're now going to take over the South China Sea. We're going to have this plan we're going to execute for 100 years. We remember invasions. We remember all this. Americans, Canadians, forget about it.
They can't do it. And by the way, we're not even talking about the Guatemalan economic migrant who just wants to make some money for his family. There are terrorists who are arrested trying to cross into our border. There are foreign nationals who are up to all sorts of problems, who are apprehended and sometimes not apprehended.
And yet, there are more terrorists in the domestic American population than there are coming in undocumented. Like, the idea here that, like, well, we need to stop these undocumented immigrants because some of them are terrorists. Yeah, but some Americans are terrorists. Like, what is your point? Whether they're documented or not, there's still going to be a chance that people coming in might be bad actors. But the point stands that citizens of the United States are more likely to be all of these negative things than foreign nationals who are coming in as undocumented laborers. And that is true. Shifty Cat. The biggest clump of terrorists in the United States are far right. They are white supremacists. They are neo-Nazis. They are running militias in the woods to preparing for the day of race war. Okay? They're hatching plots to kidnap governors and execute them in the woods. They're hatching plots to blow up bridges and shit. It's weird how Michael Knowles doesn't seem to take any personal responsibility as a member of the Party of Personal Responsibility for the terrorism inspired by his political beliefs. Curious.
And coming into our country.
When I was on the Reynosa border right across from McAllen, Texas, they've got a country club on the other side. And I guess the U.S. government couldn't buy the space to put the border wall. So the border wall just stops and then it's just country club. And every night there, they've got people going over in boats. We were flying our drone over and there's boats across the whole shore. And in the abandoned buildings where migrants will wait before they go to this Texan country club, there's spray paint of 18th Street gang all over them. And that's an El Salvadorian competitor gang to MS-13. And
yeah, I wonder how criminals might get involved in creating some kind of smuggling operation to get people into America. Weird. If only we had much easier and accessible ways of allowing people into our country that would allow them to be documented and not to have an entire section of immigration controlled by gangs.
I'm like, they're not spray painting this because they own this territory. They're spray painting it before they go into America, most likely successfully. And I witnessed...
No, these gang members have no interest in going into America. They have an interest in staying where they're at and profiting off of the desperation of the people coming through their territory. They aren't immigrating to the United States to try and spread their gang.
El Salvador every day, making their way through Mexico up into the U.S.
It's not usually what you think of when you think of a country club. You usually think of guys wearing, gold button blazers here instead of shuffling MS-13 gang-banging psychos into America. But
yeah.
That's a scary situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love how Michael Brooks is... Michael Knowles is just I've gone from saying not all undocumented immigrants to all undocumented immigrants are gang-banging psychos, which is insane.
Worthwhile to drink, even though we both guessed right.
The Canadian government hates Christians more than it hates Muslim extremists.
I'm going to do a soft slide so I don't spill again. All right.
Somehow you did spill on that. I don't know how. It doesn't make any sense.
It's rigged, all right?
It's rigged.
It's rigged. You're correct.
As are you. It goes without saying. It's not.
Did you ever watch that Norm Macdonald episode
Yes.
where he interviews the girl about 9/11 and she says the unfortunate thing about 9/11 was all the hate that it caused against Muslims? I feel like that's kind of the Canadian government's response to the issue, whereas they see like the church burnings that happened over last summer, like 50 churches, more than that, vandalized, attacked, burnt to the ground.
On BS.
Yeah, on BS grounds. And they put out a little statement, ooh, that's not so good, and ignore it. We know that if that were mosques,
Of
they'd
course.
be just.
Okay, but also, like, yeah, one of the unfortunate side effects of 9/11 was that the United States then went and invaded the Middle East on pretty loose pretenses and killed hundreds of thousands of civilians. Hundreds of thousands of civilians who are predominantly Muslim. Yeah. Yeah, that is, I think, arguably the most unfortunate side, like impact of 9/11. Yeah.
Trudeau would be doing a tour across the country.
Yeah. No, there is no question. The worst part about Canadian leftists burning down dozens and dozens of churches is the potential blowback.
Question. Has it been confirmed, chat, that Canadian leftists are burning down Christian churches? Is that something that's been confirmed, or is that just the assumption? Let's see. Leftists burn Canada. Let's see. Who burned down churches in Canada? Perpetrators unknown. Wow, crazy. You mean no one knows who burned down the Canadian churches? That's pretty wild. Let's see. On June 21st of 2021, 2 Catholic church buildings in British Columbia were destroyed in fires. Sacred Heart Church of Penticton and St. Gregory Mission Church on Osoyoos Island were a 40-minute distance between one another. On June 26th, another 2 British Columbian Catholic churches, St. Anne's on Chuchuwaiha land and another serving Chapka, were also destroyed in fires declared suspicious by police. A fire at an Anglican church was also discovered on that day, but it was extinguished with minimal damage. On June 28th, Siksika Nations Catholic Church in Alberta was damaged, and the RCMP launched an investigation into its cause. Let's see, there were 2 fires on the night of July 1st through 2nd, destroying an Anglican church on native land and damaged another. Fire was destroyed the abandoned 108-year-old St. Paul's Anglican Church of New Hazelton, British Columbia. Was a second suspicious fire at that church in a week. Let's see. So basically there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 church burnings or attempted church burnings. And no perpetrators were caught. There were no deaths, no injuries, and no one knows who did it. So it's suspected that it might have something to do with the response to Canadian Indian residential schools and their grave sites. But no one knows, because the perpetrators are unknown. Don't look up who burned down the Alexandria Library the second time. What? The second time was Theophilus, who was Patriarch of Alexandria. I don't know, I got lost. Okay.
Precisely,
Yeah.
Michael.
All right, well, good. Well done.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm actually into the idea of the metaverse.
Yeah, no, I'm a normal person. I want to live in a world created by God, not a world created by some weird reptilian named Zuckerberg. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll pass on that one. I played enough Second Life in high school to know that.
Yeah. Hey,
Not a big fan.
Yeah, you know this like
No, Lauren Southern has claimed that actually the residential school grave sites aren't real. That's her big grift.
beautiful, glorious creation with waterfalls and love and joy and hope. What if you just live in Sims all the time? Yeah, that'll be fun, right? That sounds great.
Some people would pick that though.
Yeah.
That's how sad and miserable things are getting.
Plus, in the metaverse, you don't even get legs. Did you know that?
You don't get legs.
No, they got rid of legs, actually everything below your navel, because this is not a joke. There was too much groping going on in the metaverse. In the beta testing, people kept groping, and so they got rid of their legs and loins and everything. And but there was still kind of groping. So now there's a 6-foot virtual barrier between all the characters.
My safe space.
Yeah.
Can't grope me if I don't have a body.
The patriarchy always finds a way. Okay. Using the term MAGA, if you're not American, is a very offensive and harmful form of cultural appropriation.
So true. So true.
Yeah, no, I'm going to say, actually, no. It's not cultural appropriation. Because whether you like it or not, America is the global empire.
It's not cultural appropriation because all cultures are now American, according to Michael Knowles. Oh my God. Guys, you asked me at the beginning of this, is this conservative comedy? It's not. It's just what they believe.
It runs the entire world, and there's nothing even close. The Russian invasion of Ukraine, it totally proves this. Everyone thought, oh, okay, Russia, it's this really strong form. It was recently a superpower. No, it's nothing. There's nothing even close. There's America, which has all the guns and all the weapons and all the power and everything. And then there's everyone else below the I can't even find everyone else here. The asymmetries are so crazy. And so I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it's the way it is. And so in a sense, we're all living in the American empire.
I love America, but I think you're doing the American thing where you overestimate your country, unfortunately. China, Russia, they're playing the long game.
No, I'm not saying...
I mean, I don't think Russia is anywhere close. I think China in the future could rival the United States in terms of military power.
All they have to do is wait to win.
Yes, no, I'm not even disputing that. I'm not saying that America's going to remain that way forever.
Yeah.
Pride goeth before destruction and a haughty spirit before a fall.
Yeah.
But right now, today, we're all American.
All right.
Conservatives are so cringe, dude. Imagine being this big of a dumb fuck. That you're just like, yeah, the entire world's American. The entire world is culturally American, but also don't let those brown people from the South come in here because they're not culturally American and they'll do crimes. Imagine that cognitive dissonance. That level of dumb fuckery you have to ingest. Amazing. Incredible. Truly amazing.
Well, I will happily culturally appropriate then, now that I've been given the mega pass.
I believe you're right.
Wait, that's a bit contradictory in itself.
MAGA.
Say, make America great again, but our country is already the greatest. Got him.
Wow, got him. It's like, yeah, you're right. It's
Michael Knowles, never thought of this before. Holy shit. He's literally the dumbest fascist.
you could be very, very powerful, but not great. Mm-hmm. Right? In the sense that you, at the height of...
Hey, very knifey duck. Thank you very much for gifting a sub to Shifty Cat. One of our newest homies. Also, I'll update this. 27 subs until I put on my Pride Month makeup. Come on, chat, we can do it. And then we're only 50 subs away from the Pride Month outfit, and I promise it's going to be excellent.
Roman decadence, at the height of just vicious, debauched Roman decadence. It was the world empire. But was it great in a moral sense?
Got him back spiritually. Australia during COVID is basically Afghanistan without Abrahamic religion and a full body version of masks. Australia during COVID is basically Afghanistan without Abrahamic religion and a full body version of masks. I mean,
I'm pretty sure there are Abrahamic religions present within Australia. Look, I've never been there. I'm not an expert. I'm pretty sure Abrahamic religions are present and doing decently well in Australia, okay? But also, does that mean you're a godless country unless you're a theocracy? Which is pretty insane. Who's up for some debauched Roman decadence? I had some of that last night.
Yes, I guess the concept, right? Like, I was told by the government when I could and couldn't leave my house. Anywhere I went had to be tracked by, the government, which is clearly run by the patriarchy and men. So I had to have tabs on myself by men constantly. Mm-hmm. Everyone had apps on their phone. Whenever you went into a store, even an Uber, you had to scan the app. And it would literally have a list of locations you had been all day, all month, wherever. And that would be sent off into a government database. Think about how valuable that data is.
That is so spooky.
You can know where every 30-year-old woman is at 4 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon in Australia.
Wow.
That is like extremely powerful levels of data.
That is. I would have to say you got it wrong.
Oh, okay.
Because the Western liberal establishment has been able to successfully occupy Australia, unlike Afghanistan, which it completely botched for 20 years. That'd be one thing. And also because Afghanistan has heroin. They've got very valuable opium.
At least they've got heroin.
They've got something. They've got a very valuable export. Australia these days, I don't even know what they're exporting. It's been 30 years since Crocodile Dundee. What do they have? Outback Steakhouse is their biggest export, and we own that.
I'm no expert on Australia, but I'm pretty sure it still has an economy.
So true, so true. You're stuck in your house and you don't even have heroin.
I know. Or a bloomin' onion.
Horrendous. Mm-hmm. Oh, bloomin' onions.
Mm-hmm. Okay. A trans man, this is, I guess, personal. A trans man dating a trans woman is just a straight couple with extra steps.
True.
I think by definition.
Yeah, well, I know they just came out with recent research that showed, it's like ridiculously low, like somewhere between only 1 to 10% of transgender people actually are meaningfully transgender. In fact, I think it's the one.
Sorry. What? I am gonna need a citation on that one, Lauren Southern. I'm gonna need a citation on that.
A trans man dating a trans woman is just a straight couple with extra steps.
Oh, they don't mean it that way, Solazar, but they are correct.
Yeah, well, I know they just came out with recent research that showed, it's like ridiculously low, like somewhere between only 1 to 10% of transgender people actually are meaningfully transgender. In fact, I think it's the 1%.
Imagine being a trans person and thinking Lauren Southern has meaningfully changed her positions.
In that they actually get surgery to change anything at all. So technically, the majority of people that identify as transgender would still have the original parts.
Oh, okay. So by this logic, Lauren Southern thinks that Blair White is still a man. Okay. Being meaningfully trans just means getting bottom surgery to these people.
Actually, as you say that, I'm going to change my answer.
Okay, let's see this.
I've just had an ephany in real time. Because, Sure, technically it's still a dude and a chick, but the very fact that they're pretending that the dude is the chick and the chick is the dude would seem to me to suggest it's not the same thing as a straight couple, because I know this is very politically incorrect. I think men and women have different roles in marriage. Now we use
wait. So if a straight cis man and a straight cis woman were to do some kind of like sexual role play, or like the straight cis man was like a stay-at-home dad, while like the straight cis woman was like the breadwinner, that would be like a gay relationship to Michael Knowles? What? Are you fucking kidding me?
At all. So technically, the majority of people that identify as transgender would still have the original parts.
You know, I'm actually, as you say that, I'm going to change my answer.
Pulse squad.
Okay, let's see this.
I've just had an epiphany in real time because, you know,
Michael Knowles doesn't know about pegging, chat.
Sure, technically it's still a dude and a chick, but the very fact that they're pretending that the dude is the chick and the chick is the dude would seem to me to suggest it's not the same thing as a straight couple, because I know this is very politically incorrect. I think men and women have different roles in
Jenny
marriage.
True.
Now we use this stupid word relationship. You know, I'm in a relationship, like I'm in a partnership, like you're starting an accounting firm or something. But no, when you're in a marriage, husbands.
Wait, people have been using the word relation. Sorry, let me just take a quick gander at the etymology of relationship. Yeah, we've only been using the word relationship since the 40s, okay? Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's only 400 years old.
And wives do different things, different roles, just kind of different categories. And so if you got the dude pretending to be the chick and the chick pretending to be the dude.
It is really interesting here how he is now talking about gender roles. He's talking about gender, but if you asked him outside of this immediate context, he would say sex and gender are the same thing.
It's not just the same thing as a straight couple. It's kind of the opposite of a straight couple.
Yeah, reverse. But I guess you're talking about a traditional straight couple, because the modern straight couple, they do switcheroos all the time, like the stay-at-home husband. You
make a good point. Even the very concept of straight, like the idea that you need this separate category for straight. You're right. Okay, I changed my answer back. You're right.
What? Oh yeah, he's turning into one of these people who's like, gay shouldn't even be a word. He's turning into Hake. He's turning into the Hake report, chat. He's just being like, yeah, the word gay and straight shouldn't exist. There should just be heterosexual couples.
Right, Lauren, you convinced me again. You've brought me back from the brink.
Wonderful.
Okay.
All right, is it me?
You're up.
A form of pedophilia will be added to LGBTQ plus cause and be in the process of being normalized before the 2024 presidential election.
This has been a 4chan meme, by the way. Like, this specific question has been a 4chan meme for the, by the way, a 4chan conservative meme for the last, 20 years? Like, they've been trying to say that, oh, yep, we're gonna add an M to the LGBTQ M, and M stands for MAP, which is minor attracted person, and no. Oh, Shifty Cap, by the way, that Tennessee bill was amended to, exclude child marriage. The issue with it now is just that Tennessee bill creates an entirely different kind of marriage that is only for straight people. Remember clover gender? I do not, and I can infer what it means. But I just don't think we should be taking our cues from as to what the LGBTQ community should be from the same people who made the colors green and purple shorthand for rape, okay?
It's because of the and. It's not going to, it's not, it is in the process of being normalized. You're seeing professors now come out and say, we shouldn't use the word pedophilia. That's stigmatized. We should say minor attracted person. We should push this. But they're not going to do it before 2024. And they're probably not going to add it to the initialism just because it's bad optics, right? It's bad PR.
Yeah, that's the only reason I said no as well, is I think...
Holy fuck. Yeah, Lauren Southern, noted friend to gays, over here saying the only reason pedophiles aren't included in the LGBTQ community is because of the optics.
What is it? Yeah, 2024 is too soon. Give them another 10 years.
Yeah.
I saw a meme recently that was saying, if gay marriage gets legalized, what is going to happen? And then it just has a big bar graph that says gay people will be happy. And below it has a bunch of other options that's like, disease will spread across the world. The terrorists will win. The election.
Pedophilia will be normalized.
Russia will invade. And then it's like...
Yeah, by the way, who's normalizing pedophilia, though? Because I'd argue it's conservatives. I would argue it's conservatives because conservatives don't support the number one way to catch child sex abusers, okay? The number one way to catch child sex abuse, the number one way to ensure the safety of kids and ensure that children do not get sexually abused is providing sex education. This is just an empirical fact backed up by literally decades of research. We've known this for like anywhere from 30 to 40 years, okay? And conservatives are against it because it would infringe on like the rights of parents to educate their children or whatever. But at the end of the day, that means that they are in effect against the most effective way to ensure that children don't get raped. That is part of their fundamental political position. Now, my political position is that I'm in favor of any policy that leads to fewer kids getting raped. I'm in favor of minimizing the amount of child sex abuse in our society as much as possible, okay? Yeah, which is, by the way, why you teach consent to kids. And teaching consent to kids doesn't mean you show them pornography. It doesn't mean you even have to, like go in depth into how sex works. It starts off with age-appropriate sex ed, meaning, like, you teach kids what a good touch is and what a bad touch is. You teach kids about, like, their no-no zones, all right? You teach kids about when and where it's appropriate to, like, take your pants off. Stuff like that. Because kids don't inherently know these things. You teach kids about that stuff so that they know that at the very least there's one person in their life that they can trust and talk to when an adult touches them or attempts to touch them inappropriately. So that at the very least kids know that there are things that adults can do to them that are not okay. Because a lot of kids grow up with the impression that adults own their bodies. And that's not okay. And it does lead to child sexual abuse. And they don't tell anyone about it because they feel guilty. Because they know that, well, if you're a little boy and you were abused by a male adult, well, that's gay. And you can't talk to dad about like that because it would be gay. And dad doesn't think being gay is okay. You know, like, or they're like, well, an adult told me to keep this a secret, so I'm not going to tell my parents. You know, stuff like that. This is what happens, and it's what keeps kids silent until like they're 16, 17, in their 20s, in their 30s, because they don't believe anyone's going to believe them, or the evidence disappears and no one can back it up. No one can catch their abuser. So, yeah, conservatives are the ones in America that are in favor of child sexual abuse. That is the direct result of their policies, and I think that they need to reckon with that as an entire political ideology and movement. The idea that, oh, well, actually gay people are the real pedos is just homophobia, especially when they are doing as much as possible to ensure that the best way to keep kids safe is either illegal in their states or not in practice in their school districts.
but all of the options below did actually eventually happen. Jokes aside,
And gay
there
people
has
still
been,
aren't happy. Because, it's a fallen world, man. None of us is ever. You're not gonna. If you make your identity just about who you shop, you're not gonna.
Yeah. I mean, we live in a fallen world, which is why it's okay for straights to discriminate against the gays. Hey.
Have a great life.
Yeah. The slippery slope has been very real, though.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing that I think everyone can at least give conservatives. The slippery slope is not a fallacy.
No, the slippery slope is explicitly a fallacy.
No, the slippery slope. The only thing that's fallacious about the slippery slope is you never seem to get to the bottom of it. Every time you think, I'm at the bottom, I cannot, we are now talking about grooming 5-year-olds and talking about, pumping them full of cross-sex hormones. There's no way we...
No one is advocating for 5-year-olds to be on HRT. This is an argument that is just inaccurate, both scientifically and just on the face of it. Doctors don't prescribe 5-year-olds any kind of hormonal medication unless somehow their body is going through puberty at the age of 5. They're not getting puberty blockers, which, by the way, would apply to cisgender kids and transgender kids. Again, the conservative brain is very rapidly approaching the fascist brain, okay? They're rapidly becoming the same brain. Where they're just these things that are happening are the biggest deal in the universe, and they aren't happening. They just aren't. Yeah, exactly. If you're having puberty at the age of 5, that is literally what puberty blockers were invented for. That is the only case in which a doctor would be prescribing puberty blockers to a 5-year-old. Hey, I'm discriminating over here.
I'm somehow going down even further, and they're going to normalize.
Yeah, what is that? Use that quote. It's the light at the end of the tunnel is another train. Wonderful.
American politics, probably true. Women with a high body count are more... I think it's just referring to certain romantic relationships. Women with a high body count are more miserable later in life. Yeah, I guess I agree. With one caveat.
What? Why? What? In what way?
Yeah. People can commit all sorts of terrible things, When I was young and irresponsible, I was young and irresponsible. And
Michael Knowles, are you saying you slept with a lot of men? Because I believe that.
And they can turn their lives around. They can actually change their minds. They can repent. They can go live a way better life. Joy is available to them. Ultimate salvation is available to them. But it is true that even all of that notwithstanding, you are probably going to regret you're going to regret it. You're going to have those pangs. I mean, there is a temporal effect of all sorts of sin. Mm-hmm. But the only reason I'm hung up here is, on Easter, Christians always say, "Oh, happy fault that won for me so great, so glorious a Redeemer," that we actually celebrate the fall of mankind and the original sin in the Garden of Eden because we get the Redeemer. We get salvation out of that, even though it was a problem to do it in the first place. So you could see a world, and I know people like this, who say, "Man, I lived a debauched, terrible, disgusting, degenerate life." But hey...
Why are we giving these cunts the time of day? Because unfortunately, these cunts are the most influential conservatives in America right now.
Brought me to God. I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't done that. So I'm really torn. I'm really torn on that.
Yeah, logically speaking, I mean, doesn't it just seem reasonable that if you find the person you love and want to spend the rest of your life with them, and that's the person you sleep with, and you don't have to go through 10,000 failed relationships and experiences, that you'll necessarily be more happy? Also, sex, especially in marriage for years and years, when you work on that and you build it up, I think it's way better.
Yeah. Yeah. Now listen, not to get a little saucy. I saw...
Pro tip, they're both bad at sex.
There was a meme that just came...
There are no conservatives who are good at sex, by the way. None. Okay? If you're having sex with someone who claims to be a conservative and they're good at it, they're lying to you.
Matt, it said getting married in your 20s is like leaving a
you can change them.
party at 8 o'clock. And I thought, hold on, so You're telling me I could leave a party early with a woman that I get to go sleep with for many, many times over many, many years, or I can just hang out until 2 a.m. and go home alone? I don't think so.
Trying to get a girl to come home with you, having all these unsuccessful kind of half things. Yeah, no. I will say I like your point about forgiveness, though, because that's one thing that I really would love to see more, especially in conservatism. There's no forgiveness on the left right now. It's pure, oh, you tweeted something 15 years ago? Well, time to execute you.
Yeah, that's exactly what the left has done to you, Lauren Southern. 100%. It's not because your rhetoric that is unchanged inspired multiple mass shootings.
And on the right, there is this opportunity to say, oh, you're broken. And we have to say that because we've all grown up in a broken world, especially millennials. Like, you really think millennials aren't going to have sex before marriage, do drugs, do all these things? Of course they are. It's all around them 24/7.
We're encouraged to.
Yeah, so you have to offer a path for something better and also admit our own faults.
Hell yeah, Ryla. My husband claimed to be a fiscal conservative and I converted him. Fuck yeah. Because you know what? I will say this, okay? If someone claims to be like socially liberal but fiscally conservative, there is a chance that you can get them over. Because you cannot be fiscally conservative and socially liberal. If you are socially liberal and you truly believe in the value of those those things, of like LGBTQ acceptance, of trans rights, etc., of the idea that African Americans and white Americans are should be treated equally. You know, if you believe in these ideas, that needs to be backed up by the way you spend on society. Like, you need to put your money where your mouth is, you know, when it comes to government spending. And fiscal conservatism is just a shorthand way of devaluing and defunding all of the initiatives that would bring about trans rights, LGBTQ acceptance, and equality among all peoples. So, you know, you gotta actually bring those two views into alignment if you actually care about the socially liberal values. You know, you gotta spend money to fix that shit.
I think that's a big problem in conservative creation as well. Like, we are all very fallen people, conservative creators, as everyone who watches us. It's about trying to aspire.
Oh, misfortunate. Thank you for the follow, by the way.
So yeah, thank God for God. Just like political commentary is for failed acts.
Yeah, no, Ryla, I think a lot of people fall into that category, you know?
Documentaries are for failed filmmakers.
Wow.
I'm just going to say you say no, and you better say no too.
No, I would say no. Both, I assume you would say no, but I also would say no because...
Vegan Chaz Guitar Girl, thank you very much for saying I'm a Giga Chad. I appreciate that.
What about Werner Herzog? I don't think the guy was going to be in, Guys and Dolls. I don't think the guy wanted to be, playing Woody in Toy Story. The guy is a documentarian, and that's a very high form of art, and he's very good at it.
Actually, you just made me rethink my answer the other way. I think that art is the best way to communicate with people. You can't make someone care about, it's that Stalin quote, a million is just a statistic, whereas one, that's like someone you can sympathize with. That's a tragedy. And you look at any documentary on a subject, if it's just pure around the facts about a subject, a lot of people will watch it, and people who are fact-minded, they'll enjoy it. But it's those emotional movies made about wars, made about tragedies, that really make people care and get involved.
I agree that narrative storytelling is more powerful, but still, I think some people are just documentary.
Oh, by the way, there's no proof that Stalin ever said this. Stalin never said that quote. It came from a French comedic essay.
I don't think it's that they're failed, showgirls or something.
Or rather, no, it came from a German journalist about French comedy.
You wouldn't say that look, I think that telling stories is probably more important than a lot of high-level mathematics. But you wouldn't say the mathematician is a failed artist. You would just say he's a mathematician. It's a different thing. It's got value to it.
Yeah, vegan jazz guitar girl. We might watch that on stream tonight. I might bite the bullet on that one.
Yeah, it does. But I'll tell you right now, if I had the budget for it, I'd move to filmmaking instead of documentaries right away.
Could I be a showgirl in the movie?
You can absolutely, I will cast you for sure as a showgirl. I look at it and I don't think I think the girl in the little red dress in Schindler's List did more for talking about, tragedies during World War II than history classes in school that most people zone out in.
Yeah.
Are you No, it releases tonight at like 6 p.m., something like that. So in like an hour or two. But she literally just said, you don't need to learn about history to know about the tragedies of World War II. You just need to watch Schindler's List. And not even Schindler's List in its entirety, just the scenes with the girl in the little red dress, or the little red coat. How does she still have a Twitch account? Good question. Maybe at Twitch and ask.
That's true.
Like, I think those kind of little artistic, they touch people's souls, right?
Yeah, that is true.
Hard to do with numbers.
That is true. Joseph Conrad says that the job of the artist is to render the highest possible justice to the visible world. And, that's something that we people who just own the libs on the internet, I agree, it's a higher calling. All right, I'll still drink.
Always. Got to finish it before the end.
Mm-hmm. All right. Before we get to this question, Lauren, I really can't wait to tell people about Ring. Right now, go to ring.com.
Oh my God.
Door in your Windows Kingdom.
Very funny. You really got me with that one.
You got it right. I'm allowed into the United Kingdom.
Wow, that's so cool. You're allowed into that trash country.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Michael. Have fun drinking and watching footy into oblivion while your country's destroyed.
Who banned you? It wasn't the Queen.
It was the Queen herself, actually. She
Yeah.
came down and told me, "How dare you, Lauren?"
She's a tough old German lady. She is.
I think
like her very
I'm
much.
one of the only women in the world to be arrested for terrorism, though. So that's very feminist of me, in my opinion.
That's true. You're breaking the glass ceiling.
She is an arrested terrorist who is allowed on Twitch.tv. Insane.
Trailblazer, truly.
Okay, well, to that, who needs it? Who needs those
the UK?
lines anyway? Yeah. Okay. You're up.
Not believing in Jesus Christ is the main cause of people turning into total libs.
Holy shit, who wrote these?
Ooh.
No, it is. It is. It's just as simple as that. Because it all really comes out of the French Revolution. And the French Revolution was a rejection of Christ and his church.
It comes out of the Enlightenment, you ding-dong.
And the Enlightenment project broadly was a rejection of Christ and his...
There you go. Yeah. By the way, big tip for you guys. If you ever hear a conservative say that they reject the Enlightenment, they're a Nazi. Okay? They are a Nazi. Just straight up. All right? Enlightenment values are what made America possible. The idea that he simultaneously rejects the Enlightenment but praises the dominance and empire of America are big indicators that he does not give a shit about democracy and just wants an authoritarian dictator who agrees with him on everything. That's all he wants.
Church, and that is the beginning of liberalism. So it is in a very literal way. It is.
Wait, but do Protestants not believe in Jesus Christ?
No, they do. But
what if they're the cause?
Well, some do. Some do. Not all do. Some reject the.
I happen to agree with you. The Reformation led to the complete questioning of any sort of structure and definitions, suddenly you can
Of
go
truth
into your
itself.
own little closet.
Yeah, the fucking Reformation. Fuck being able to question hegemony, okay? You should be an unquestioning little good boy, okay? You should be cucked every day by the establishment and not question it, okay? The Lord's lands that you live on, they get the right of prima nocta so they can come in and rape your spouse, okay? And that's just the way it is. You shouldn't question that. Because democracy is bad, actually, according to these absolute nitwit goons. God.
What you want anything to be. There doesn't have to be an authority or anything.
Well, also keep in mind, DB, fascism is at heart anti-intellectual, okay? Their arguments almost always circle back around to being an intellectual, questioning authority. These are just signs of you being gay. You're being weak and effeminate by questioning authority. Being dumb is quite literally a part of their ideology.
Tell you, which good and bad aspects to that, but definitely led us down an interesting path. But yeah, still, a lot of Protestants, Episcopalians, you've got a lot of denominations.
So are you blaming the Protestants for the French Revolution? Because I might, but I didn't think a Protestant would.
I'm just saying, there's a lot of liberal Protestants that believe in Jesus Christ.
No, there are. I mean, there are the lib cats to the liberal Catholics, for those who aren't up on the lingo. They are too. But again, I do think a lot of that, modernity begins with the Protestant Revolution. There's no question about that. And the Protestant Revolution does play into aspects of the French Revolution. There's no question about that. The French Revolution is where we get the terms left and right, even, right?
I mean, I would argue, Solazar, that they are more mask off than a lot of the people we watch. I don't think that they are fundamentally more right-wing than most of the other people we watch here. These two got the government they wanted. It would fall apart in a short span because they're too dumb to govern right because libs need to be owned mindset. Well, Nexus of Midnight, that's the other thing. Fascist governments collapse because they're built on anti-intellectualism and death cults.
Right, the right were the people who supported the monarchy, and the left were the big libs. And so there's no question about all of that, and there's a very interesting conversation to be had about the role of Mr. Luther in all of these things. But I think at a very basic level, when we talk about liberalism, lowercase l, capital L, leftism, progressivism, all of it, it does appear to all have come out of a rejection of the authority of the church and Christianity.
Yeah, of course, there has to be some structure when you believe in Christianity, but did God himself not give us freedom to eat of the tree?
Well, there was a punishment. I mean, he didn't, right? He said, don't do it. And then we had this free will, and we probably shouldn't have used it, except that happened.
Michael Knowles making the case against exercising free will. God, he yearns for the return of absolute monarchy.
Happy fault gave to us so great, so glorious a Redeemer.
Yeah.
Now, it's even further complicated because this mucky soup of liberalism that we all just find ourselves mired in has colored, as you point out, very insightful.
Michael Knowles talking about how liberalism has colored the world. I wonder if this is going to be an allusion to race.
The way that Christians even view themselves.
Yeah.
Christians have become very liberal in many ways, which is a very sad thing.
I wouldn't even say that. So, Christianity does mimic aspects of, you have personal freedom. So there's aspects of liberalism. You have that personal freedom. So the problem isn't the personal freedom itself. It's the choices we're making with said personal freedom.
Spoken like a true Protestant. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right. Getting married and being a mother is the highest good for a woman and should be the priority in life.
Oh my god. Lauren Southern, why did it take you so many years to get married then, and be a wife and have a child? You were gallivanting around the world getting banned for terrorism in the UK. Why weren't you out there getting that sweet marriage on?
The only reason I say no, is I think not everyone is called to be married. Not everyone is called to motherhood. Some people are physically incapable of becoming mothers. I'm not just talking about men who think that they're women, but women too.
Oh, damn. Crazy. Crazy how you included trans people, you realized that, and then you had to correct yourself. Let's replay that. Let's get an instant replay on that.
The only reason I say no, is I think not everyone is called to be married. Not everyone is called to motherhood. Some people are physically incapable of becoming mothers. I'm not just talking about men who think that they're women, but women too. But
he had to correct himself.
It's a high calling. Now people laugh about it. You say, what, you want me to become a nun? Well, yeah, some of the greatest people in history have been nuns and had consecrated.
Some of the greatest people in history have been nuns, huh? Interesting.
Hello friends, and welcome back to another video. Today we are talking about gay nuns, a topic that I am very excited about. In fact, this will not be the end of our conversation about gay nuns. If you came here to hear about the queer antics of insane medieval nuns, there's going to be a whole sequel to this video on that. This video is covering mostly stories from the 20th century, but I promise you it will be spicy nonetheless. But before we get into it, I need to tell you a little bit about this video's sponsor, Function of Beauty.
Nope.
The fun perks.
Not getting me.
Drama, we love the apparent contradiction there. I think a lot of people like seeing queerness and religious imagery coexist in a way that shows that they're not exclusive. They don't exist in these separate spheres of church good and normal and pure and queerness bad and fringe and degenerate. I think it's cathartic for a lot of us who grew up feeling bitter towards religious communities to see them reconciled in this fun way. And so with those things in mind, I set out to find myself some real queer nuns. So at first queer nuns seem like a contradiction, right? Something belonging to a satirical drag performance. But then you think about it, and it makes complete sense. It makes perfect sense. In the introduction of Lesbian Nuns Breaking Silence, Rosemary Curb writes, "If our culture defines normality in terms of male experience and values only women who relate to men, both nuns and lesbians tend to be ridiculed or dismissed as irrelevant. Eschewing the cosmetics and costumes of the commercially promoted feminine mystique," that's shade at Betty Friedan, by the way, the national organization president who called lesbians a lavender menace and gave rise to Lavender Menace. Anyway, both nuns and lesbians are emotionally inaccessible to male coercion. You know, I have always said, if I was born in a worse time, TM, oh buddy, I'd be running away to the convent so fast. You get to escape from marriage and having children. I mean, technically nuns are married to Jesus. We're gonna get into an interesting loophole in that when we get to our insane medieval nuns. I'm looking at you, Benedetta. Well, you get to escape from heteronormative expectations. You have time to educate yourself, pursue your hobbies, write books. There have been lots of really interesting and influential intellectual badass nuns. Teresa of Avila, Hildegard of Bingen, Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz, to name a few. Like I said, I'm 100% sold on the convent. Worst time me, she was going to the convent. She was gonna get so witch burned otherwise, so sold on the convent. And when Sister Eunice over there starts looking real good, you don't have to worry that much about getting caught. At least not nearly as much as queer men had to worry about it. For a long time, there was no laws specifically forbidding sex between women. There was laws that vaguely mentioned unnatural acts, but it was nothing like the very clear sodomy laws that existed towards queer men. In some cases, those sodomy laws would be applied just as harshly to queer women, but those were usually cases involving material instruments. Two nuns were in fact burned at the stake in the 16th century for using material instruments. I don't want to know what DIY medieval shit. But that was very, very rare. Just because those sodomy laws could technically be applied to queer women, they almost never were. Almost no cases were actually prosecuted. Because there was this perception that two women physically could not have sex because no penis, no sex. As we know, the world revolves around penises. So no penis? What are you doing? What could they possibly be doing? It really only became like a burned at the stake level problem if there was some kind of a threat to the male role, i.e. material instruments or cross-dressing. Besides that, male writers simply did not acknowledge or did not want to acknowledge romantic and sexual relationships between women. The Bible passage that comes the closest to mentioning homosexuality between women is Romans 1:26, and I think it's just an amazing microcosm for this entire issue. For this reason, God gave them up to dishonorable passions. Their women exchanged natural relations for unnatural, and men likewise gave up natural relations with women and were consumed with passion for one another. Men committing shameless acts with men. The men are having sex with each other. The men are consumed with passion for one another. The men. Two men, they have given up women, and the two men are having sex with each other. Women are committing unnatural acts. Don't worry about what a number of things that could possibly ever mean. I just think it's so funny. Like, yeah, that's it. That's the attitude towards queer women. So all of that being said, if you were a queer woman in a different time, you wanted to escape from existing in a heterosexual society, having to perform gender roles, the convent was where it was at. The convent was lit and absolutely saturated with your fellow queers. So I picked up the 1985 book, Lesbian Nuns Breaking Silence, widely considered the book on lesbian nuns. And yes, I am proud that I tracked down a copy that isn't the god-awful clip art looking 2013 reprint.
Oh my god.
Thank you for asking. I entered the convent to lead the perfect life, to live among women, to avoid marriage, to go through medical school, to live adventurously as a missionary in Africa or Korea or South America, and to dedicate my life to the service of women and children. If we think in terms of the church's power over us, then of course it was repressive, but somehow that autonomous community of women eluded direct male domination. I had an incredibly positive experience with nuns as a child. That's why I became one. It was the attraction to grown women who were different from the other adult women I saw around me. Single professional women whom I knew lacked the friendship and sense of family with other women that nuns had. In the convent, everyone had a job. Unlike my house where girls did the housework and the boys were allowed to go free, I saw equal division of work. There were no roles or privileges like my father and brothers had in my house. No more sadness, no more trying to be understood by my family or to meet their unspoken demands, no more struggling to fit in with friends. Safe inside the novitiate, I've just turned 18. We join clergy and parishioners in civil rights marches and freedom marches, we watch news on television, and are expected to vote if of age. No one discouraged me from studying any subject because I was a woman. On the contrary, I was encouraged to excel. In high school too, I was attracted to nuns because they were such independent women. I especially remember the nun who taught me literature and creative writing. She was bright, witty, strong, nonconformist, athletic, and had a man's name. I wanted to be like her. Public models for service and adventure among women were scarce at the time. Nuns seemed to exemplify best what I wanted to do. Vaguely, I was aware that entering the convent was a way of putting off facing the inevitable question of my sexuality, and continuing the good life of high school, and of giving my life some meaning. Believing that service and commitment to God would squelch the passionate desire I felt for women, I jumped into religious life at 18 with 70 women my age. There was something very seductive about contemplative life for me. It meant total freedom from having to relate to the world at all. The women who share their stories in this book wanted to become nuns for various reasons, some of them including freedom from social obligations, education, all the way up to doctorates in some cases, to have careers in a time where it wasn't always encouraged for women to do so, although nuns' careers did tend to be limited to either nurse or teacher, to contribute to their communities, to have a purpose, to live among women away from the male gaze. The convent was where it was at. Sort of. There did end up being some pretty big deal breakers with living your life within the institution of the Catholic Church. One thing that drove a lot of these women to leave the convents, especially given that they were queer, was the policing of particular friendships, which is just the gayest sounding thing I've ever heard in my life. And it's true that homosexuality between women was...
yes, the policing of just homies. The policing of gals being pals.
Never really acknowledged or criminally punished to the degree that male homosexuality was, but without ever saying a lot about why the church has always been very interested in close relationships between nuns. In the year 423, yes, 423, St. Augustine wrote this letter to a group of nuns that his sister had just joined, and he had to say, "The love between you, however, ought not to be earthly but spiritual. For the things which shameless women do, even to other women in low jokes and games, are to be avoided not only by widows and chaste handmaids of Christ, living under the holy rule of life, but also entirely by married women and maidens destined for marriage. Ladies, stop having gay sex. It's never okay, especially not for the handmaidens of Christ." From the Middle Ages all the way through the 20th century, convents banned particular friendships, which is just, I can't get particular French, that's gay, that's so, oh. And the way they defined particular friendships was very vague. It was just any sort of exclusive intimacy with another nun. Just having a best friend, basically, was not allowed. Nuns were not allowed to show any favoritism to any specific other nun. They were expected to spend their times socializing in large groups. Apparently, the rationale that some convents gave was that if you focus your energy only on like a specific person or a few specific people...
This is Strange Aeons. Here's a link to the vid.
Then the community will suffer. Arguably, the first recorded warning against particular friendships that we have is from some guy, some bishop. Anyway, it was the 7th century, and our boy said that none take the hand of another or call one another little girl. No calling each other romantic pet names, essentially, although I know. It is forbidden lest any take the hand of another for delight, or stand or walk around or sit together. She who does so will be improved with 12 blows, and anyone who is called little girl, or who call one another little girl, 40 blows if they so transgress. Each should sleep in a separate bed, and they should accept bedding according to the
No calling another woman little girl.
Arrangements of the couches as the mother directs. If possible, all should sleep in one place, but if the large numbers do not allow this, they should rest by 10s and 20s with the elders who have charge of them. Lights should burn in each chamber until daybreak. They should sleep clothed, in their girdles, bound and always ready for divine service with all gravity and modesty. And when the signal is given, each should hurry to get to the work of God with no delay before the others. They should not have the younger sisters with them in the bed, but be joined by elders or groups. Rising, they should exhort each other to the work of God against any excuses of the sleepy. Sir, are you sure you don't think lesbian sex exists? Because this was written in the 7th century, and honestly, not a lot changed. Particular friendships were very heavily policed in a lot of convents, although it does seem like there was the odd one that was very relaxed. Then in the summer of 73, I'm working at a summer camp in the National Forest with a few Sisters of St. Joseph helping out. Beautiful. You're gay. While I'm minding my own business being a good camp counselor, when Sister Beth comes on to me like a diesel dyke in a honky-tonk bar. For the next 2.5 years, I hitchhike from Southern California to her convent in the Midwest to visit her whenever I can. My first serious lover. My head is changing. I'm ready to say I'm a lesbian. But she's a nun, and getting ready to take her final vows. She wants me to be in the ceremony, give the homily. Wait a minute. What kind of a lie is this? She's preparing to make a promise of celibacy in front of everybody, and she still wants me whenever she can get me? Come on now. Come on now, Sister Beth. What the fuck is this? People always found their ways to live their weird gray areas. But in most convents, transfers to split up two women who were getting too close was extremely common. They were constantly worried about getting kicked out if they failed evaluations or psych tests, which was terrifying for a lot of women who didn't have any family or outside life to go back to. Nuns who were suspected of deviant behavior could be sent to mental institutions, given drugs and even electroshock therapy against their wills. They didn't really know what the nuns could possibly be doing without any penises, but there was some kind of wacky reason why they could never under any circumstances be allowed to get too close. The reason why convents were ultimately an unfulfilling place to be for women who sought them out as refuges from patriarchal society and conventional gender roles was this ban on ever forming true close relationships with other people and the intense guilt that they were made to feel over having any wrong thought, including the desire for friends. The day-to-day Catholic of it all. Most of them never had dramatic movie scene secret romances with other nuns. They just wanted friends and the freedom to express themselves. One woman writes, "We need a theology that deals with human freedom and respects our ability to choose the objects of our love responsibly. As a lesbian, I refuse to accept a theology which robs us of our freedom in order to absolve us of our quote-unquote guilt. We are called to love. How dare we not love?" The 60s and 70s brought about a mass exodus of nuns from the church. And I do have to briefly get into some church history here and acknowledge that this was very tied up with the Second Vatican Council in 1965, often called Vatican II. Basically, it was an effort to update the practices of the Catholic Church to the 20th century, including a lot of changes to the way that nuns lived. You'd think, intuitively, as I did, that modernizing would be good. After Vatican II, nuns became a lot less isolated from the world, and you'd think the nuns would be happy about that. But it was the opposite. A lot of women who share their stories in this book were like, "No, fuck this. I came here to escape the world. I came here because I wanted to wear this ridiculous outfit and pray in Latin. What do you mean we're translating the haunting hymns to English and going to live in the city and having to socialize with other religious groups or work in chaotic downtown hospitals?" These decades were also a really important transition time between women who didn't really fit into patriarchal society having to run away to the convent to get any sanity, and then being able to live autonomous lives, queer lives, even if they wanted. So a lot of women, faced with these massive changes to the church and faced with the possibility of the real world, just chose the real world, which had one very interesting side effect for the gay community. Around the 70s and 80s, we start seeing ex-nuns become extremely prominent within gay rights groups. There was a very obvious nun-to-activist pipeline going on. Jean Cordova, one of the contributors to the book, said in an interview with the Los Angeles Times, "The movement for social justice in the 70s and 80s were replete with ex-nun lesbian leadership. I've come to see the convent as a boot camp for us all." Which again, seems wacky, but then you think about it and it makes complete sense. Becoming a nun to begin with takes someone with an interest in social justice and serving their community. It's described as a life of service. The book's contributors include 2 former directors of the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force, Virginia Apuzzo and Jean O'Leary, 7 officers of the National Organization for Women, founders of various lesbian and feminist publications, as well as authors of books, many accomplished professors and academics. Pretty much all of them describe themselves as activists in some kind of way. Cordova, the woman who called the convent's lesbian social justice boot camp, she was one of the organizers of the fight against California's sodomy laws, leading to the decriminalization of homosexuality. And I'm sure you could argue that, like, yes, activists and writers and all of these people are probably overrepresented by this book because those are the types of people who are more likely to be publishing their stories in an anthology, whatever. But at the same time, if we have this many queer ex-nuns in the gay rights movement telling their stories, how many must there be that aren't writing about it in books? Another story that I found online was about Bridget Kroll and Chris Morrissey, who were a couple that met as nuns. They were lifelong activists. They paved the way in the 90s for Canadian immigration law to apply equally to same-sex partners and spoke up about inequalities in healthcare and senior care until Kroll's death in 2016. And that is the thing, isn't it? Most of these women are dead or in their 80s and 90s. It's becoming no longer the case that ex-nuns are so prominent within the gay community, but I get the impression that just a few decades ago, ex-nuns were very prominent in the gay community, and I find it so interesting. But stepping back for just a moment, not all lesbian nuns from the book, Lesbian Nuns, not all lesbian nuns are ex-nuns. Some of the women who contributed are still nuns, and they identify very much with the calling to be a nun and with queer identity, and it's a source of deep pain for them that the Catholic Church rejects the type of relationships that they want. The dream life that they describe would be one where they can live openly as lesbians and nuns. For some women, the lack of freedom afforded by the Church was too much for them, but for others, it's a compromise they're willing to make. And others, like Sister Beth, have some kind of whole other bonkers arrangement going on where they are able to fulfill those 2 parts of themselves easily. The whole spectrum is out there and is possible. That pretty much concludes the educational portion of this video, but I want to say a little more because researching this has definitely hit on something personal to me, and I think filled in a puzzle piece of my own identity that I didn't even really know how to fully articulate until now. I was never a nun, obviously, but I went to a very small all-girls Catholic school throughout middle and high school, and let me tell you, there is just something about being isolated from normal society and socialization with a tight-knit group of girls that just makes you weird. To begrudgingly use a very overused word, feral. And like a lot of women in this book, I am grateful for that experience. I'm grateful.
Hey, Catalina Gearbox, thank you for the 5 gifted tier 1 subs. Actually, that brings us up to 46. Hell yeah.
For this weird, intense community of women that let parts of me thrive that I think the outside world would have crushed. And that must be a common experience among queer women. It doesn't have to be a convent. It doesn't even have to be a religious setting. There's a reason I still buy Girl Guide cookies whenever I can, and it's gay nostalgia.
Mikro,
I set out to research a video about insane medieval nuns, and this one just grew off of that idea like a tumor because I ended up finding out that nuns are a huge part of our history as queer women, and their experiences are still so relevant to the way that we relate to the world and to communities of women and to our own queerness. So with that groundwork, and I hope that...
Yeah, look, if you're an oil baron, you have a legal responsibility to gift subs. My small amount of hype, thank you, Solazar.
Appreciation of nuns, we will go forward together to the insane medieval nuns. I'll see you there very soon. In the meantime, you can support me on Patreon if you would like. I do live streams every single Wednesday in my Patreon Discord server. You can ask me your questions, show me your stupid memes. Sometimes we play Jackbox games or cards.
All right.
Consecrated religious life. But generally, for the vast majority of women, I would say yes.
Yeah, I'm a no as well. There are people that I know where I'm like, you shouldn't be a mother. And I don't say that because they're bad people, but they just don't have that nurturing aspect to them.
Hey, John
and I think
Brongus.
that
Haven't
you're
seen
much
you in a hot
better off
minute.
having parents that want to be parents and are deliberate about it and are like, like, that is my calling. I am a mother. I want to have kids. I want to love them and care for them. Then, push people into it that won't be great parents. Because I think obviously the catastrophic destruction of our family today and, marriages falling apart, all of that
I wonder what is destroying the family. Could it be capitalism? I don't know.
has been one of the greatest evils and one of the greatest scourges on our civilization. It all starts with that minute factor, not these big, big picture questions we're always
You can
talking
do that,
about.
Mint.
So
It's fine.
definitely
I can
a
hold
no
down the
for
fort.
me.
Is there a thought though with the, because I know exactly the type of young
We aren't exactly overflowing with a ton of people in chat, so you can definitely go to Micro Center right now. I got this. I got this.
lady you're talking about, or you think, you're probably not going to be the most nurturing. But is there a thought of sort of, well, just jump into the deep end, and just do it, and that will transform you and your character?
Yeah, I mean, I think that does happen for some people, but there's also the question of, do you really want to take that chance with the child's
With a kid.
life?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
Like, would you want your parent to be, well, we'll see if it works out.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I mean, I'd be alive at least, but yes, it's a very fraught prospect.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll be very
I'll
intentional
drink to that.
It is more dangerous to be a white farmer in South Africa than a gay duck. Who wrote these? Than a gay duck visiting the United Arab Emirates.
A gay duck. There were some years ago, there were gay penguins in the Central Park Zoo.
Did they mean to write dude?
Gay duck.
I'm sorry, we shouldn't be joking because it's actually really horrible to be a white farmer in South Africa. Like, it's horrendous.
And to be a gay.
Let's see. Interesting that she brings up it's really terrible to be a white farmer in South Africa. Because, again, Lauren Southern is famous for another thing, which is spreading great replacement theory. The theory and conspiracy that motivated the Buffalo shooter, as well as shooters like the New Zealand mosque shooter. Basically, to kind of sum it up for you, there was a white farmer in South Africa who was killed, right? And then this sparked a claim that there was a white genocide in South Africa that became spread like wildfire throughout right-wing groups, both in South Africa and in the United States. And is, strangely enough, a frequent talking point of white nationalists. Weird that Lauren Southern has made that a bedrock of her online talking points for a while now. There are no reliable figures that suggest that white farmers are at a greater risk of being killed than the average South African. The murder of South Africans is, on average, the same rate as the murder of white South Africans. Some South African blacks have sought to seize privately owned land which they have made claims to. However, South African police have stopped such attempts at appropriating land. So, there have been attempts, but by individuals, not like the state is engaging in a genocide against white South African farmers. That isn't happening exactly. And the reason that these people are making claims to said land in the first place is due to the legacy of apartheid, which is, complicated and highly fraught and not something that can be trivialized into they just want to murder white people. Fact checkers have widely identified the notion of a white genocide in South Africa as a falsehood or myth. The government of South Africa and other analysts maintain that farm attacks are part of a broader crime problem in South Africa and do not have a racial motivation. The Afrikaner rights group AfriForum claimed that some attacks are racially motivated. racist vitriol is an element in some of the murders of white farmers. According to genocide studies and prevention professor Gregory Stanton, early warnings of genocide are still deep in South African society. The genocide has not begun. And Gregory Stanton, for the record, I don't know that he's referring to the genocide of white South African farmers, just as an FYI. That would be pretty strange, to be honest.
Gay duck in the United Arab Emirates. Lauren, please don't downplay that. Okay, I'm going to have
So true,
editorial
Michael.
control here and say it's a gay dude. So it's more dangerous being a white farmer in South Africa.
Gay duck for me. You got banned for it.
Duck.
What is this guy talking? Can I get a new producer, please?
This guy
When
knows
can I have a
my
new
history
producer?
way better than I do.
Wow.
I think I may posted a meme like 3 years ago of a duck getting hanged in the United Arab Emirates.
That's weird to follow those memes that closely. Okay, all right, the producers say it's done.
Yeah, just to take a look at it. Hey, I'm Ollie, the first homosexual duck to visit the United Arab Emirates. Look in the comments for the updates on my adventures. Just for the record, this is what she's advocating for, like, as a broad social policy related to queer people. You might be like, oh, she hasn't explicitly said that in America. She hasn't specifically said that. That's true, but what do you think the end goal of saying pedophilia is being normalized by queer people? What do you think the end goal of that falsehood is? Because it's certainly not, well, let's just be nicer to gay people, is it?
You gotta move mine.
Losing it here. Yeah, absolutely. Most people in the United Arab Emirates are secretly gay anyway.
You know, one time this is true, I was at a nightclub in Dubai, and I'm there, and a lot of people coming over from Abu Dhabi or Sharjah or wherever, or Saudi Arabia. And I met, first of all their names were Mo, like Mohammed, but they didn't want to say Mohammed because I'm Western. So they said, I'm Mo. And they were all gay guys. They were all gay guys just living it up in Dubai.
Have you ever heard this quote? It's from that region, but they'll say, women are for children, boys are for pleasure. That's like genuinely a belief system.
In the Afghan National Army.
Yeah.
You remember the Afghan?
Interesting. So there was a problem in Afghanistan where occupying troops would just kind of ignore older men holding hands with young, pretty boys. British soldiers found that young Afghan men were actually trying to touch and fondle the young boys. Military investigator Anna Maria Cardinali said the soldiers didn't understand. And all of this was so disconcerting, the Defense Department hired Cardinali, a social scientist, to examine this mystery. Her report, Pashtun Sexuality, startled not even one Afghan, but Western forces were shocked and repulsed. So some research suggests that half of the Pashtun tribal members in Kandahar and other southern towns are bakabaz, the term for an older man with a boy lover. Literally, it means boy player. The men like to boast about it. Having a boy has become a custom for us. Anaya Tuala, a 42-year-old in Baglan province, told a Reuters reporter, whoever wants to show off should have a boy. Yeah, I am aware that this is referring to pedophiles. Yes, that is not something that needs to be made more explicit. Interesting. This was, by the way, this article was published in SF Gate. Though it is quite interesting, the framing in this article, which is pretty racist. I'm not sure how much stock to put into like this reporting specifically, but it is also telling that these articles really made the rounds in the far right. Yeah. Yeah, okay, so this appears to be like an actual real problem, though it also seems to be something that is largely localized in Afghanistan and isn't and should not be used to deride the entirety of the Middle East. I think that would be a huge mistake. So saying that this also applies to Dubai or the United Arab Emirates, I think is pretty goddamn racist unless you have some citations for that. Afghanistan isn't in the Middle East. It is to people in America. Sorry. People, look, if you ask 95% of Americans, they're going to identify Afghanistan as being in the Middle East. Look, to any American, they're going to be like, it's next to Iran. That's close enough, okay? Also, the people in this video are saying that what is going on in Afghanistan applies to the entirety of the Middle East, which, again, is not accurate.
National Army, which briefly existed, now exists no more. There was this big problem of pederasty. And one of the lines that was reported to the Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction was, what do you want me, I'll clean it up a little bit. What do you want me to do if I can't sleep with little boys? What am I supposed to sleep with, my grandmother?
Well, no, it's worse than them being fucking wrong, my rear end. These people are deliberately framing Afghanistan as part of the Middle East in an effort to, essentially in an effort to smear all Muslim people as pedophiles. That is their goal here. So they don't really care that much about the geography. They care much more about the social prescriptions and the spreading of Islamophobia.
There's a line actually reported to the government. So, yes, also because the gay ducks can kind of maybe suppress it, keep it in check while they're in UAE. But the white farmers, unless they're going to pull a Justin Trudeau, which has its own politically incorrect implications, they're not able to hide who they are.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll drink to that.
True.
Okay.
Justin Trudeau.
Again, my rear end, they don't give a shit. And also, nobody in the United States gives a shit, except maybe Indonesians. Like, it is immaterial what the facts are to fascists. 100% immaterial. As long as they can pursue their goal with made-up propaganda, they will do so. I give a shit? Okay. Then you can make your own stream where you talk about giving a shit about that.
Head of the curve.
The jab is fake.
Yeah, they essentialize race down to white, black, Mexican, and Arab, and then also China. And that is also how they view the geography of the world. And sometimes they talk about Russia.
And is more likely just a mark of the beast mechanism for tracking people's movements, controlling population growth, and possibly giving 5G than actually preventing people from getting sick. Due to YouTube, this is very important. Due to YouTube rules, make your guess. And
Hello, Susan Wojcicki. How are you?
Do not verbally confirm if any other person guessed correctly. Give only a non-verbal, ambiguous gesture. So you're just guessing for the other person whether you believe that.
Well, no, Susan has already guessed for us.
Has she? No, but
Susan has already decided.
Susan, please don't take me down.
Give a non-verbal blink if you're being held hostage.
Because we would never say that the jab is obviously fake, and I can't even get through it. They're going to kick it. They're going to ruin my career. I can't.
The jab is, of course, not a mark of the beast, and it is definitely not a mechanism for tracking people's movements or controlling population growth. Certainly.
Again, I reiterate, these people do not give a shit about the facts of the matter at all. They do not care about geography. They do not care about demographics. They do not care about anything except for being able to vilify. No, they aren't being ironic, my rear end. This is the entire point I've been trying to make by watching this video. Conservative comedy is just restating the things that they actually believe. They actually believe at least one of those things. That it's the mark of the beast, that it is fake, that it doesn't actually do anything, or that it is a way of tracking people. You know, they do not care about the actual facts about this at all. Isn't the mark of the beast supposed to come after the rapture? It doesn't matter because the rapture is made up.
Not. Okay.
All right. Drink to that. Drink to our last YouTube video. Yeah.
Like the rapture was literally a thing that was made up in like the 1950s.
Right.
I've not seen Borderless, Crossfire, Farmlands, or American Mirage. I hate you.
Yeah. I assume you've seen it.
No, I've not seen my own
no,
movies.
actually-
I had a stand-in.
Hold on. It's not. I have not seen either or.
American Mirage isn't out yet.
That's what I'm saying. But I saw the other one.
Okay,
Your
there
first
we
one.
go.
I interviewed you about the other one.
Farmlands, yeah.
Farmlands. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Wonderful.
How about that?
All right.
Yeah, she made a documentary about how white South African farmers are being genocided called Farmlands. So, yeah, we know what Lauren Southern is peddling, okay?
You thought you had one on me, but you don't, because it was an or. Okay.
Ooh.
The biggest issue with the legacy media is that. Can I pause there? I don't like that term. It makes them sound cool.
Yeah.
Legacy is cool. I want a legacy. I much prefer establishment media, lib media, crooked, awful, disgusting, degenerate media. But legacy is a cool word. Anyway, it's a digression. The biggest issue with the legacy. I'm going to edit.
The lib media.
Yes,
right?
thank you very much. Thank you for interpreting that. Is that it's controlled and influenced by a group of people who are demographically small yet vastly overrepresented in the media. Where the hell is this going?
Michael Knowles, you know exactly where that was heading, okay? No, I think they're talking about Judenpressen.
Hold on. No, before you, no, wait. Blue check Twitter leftists. Okay. All right. I thought we were having a little bit of a. Thought we were having a little David Duke on the staff over here, but we don't. He's talking about how.
It's very interesting how he would not be surprised if someone was a little David Duke on the staff.
The libs, the blue check Twitter leftists, control the establishment media. That's the biggest
No, my rear end, different things.
issue with the media. No,
Are you drunk?
that's not. I'm going to change my. It's not. That's not the biggest issue.
What?
No, it's not. It's not. The biggest issue with the lib media is not that it's controlled by the small handful of the blue checks and whatever. It's that they're wrong.
Yeah. Again, this is just a way for them to say that media is being run by Jews without being taken off YouTube, okay?
About everything. Like it.
Yeah, but that's why they're wrong.
I
about
know it's
everything.
related. No, they seem
They are
related.
completely out of touch.
Yes.
Coastal elites that know nothing about the average person. Their experience of the real world all comes from textbooks.
I totally agree. My point is, though, the media are always going to be controlled by some elite. There's no such thing as a democratic media where
Also, these people are getting blue checks because they run these media, not they have the blue checks and are then just highlighted by the media. I know what Lugenpresse means! I was just saying that they meant it was a lying press, but are also trying to say it was run by Jews. I know what it means! God damn it!
Man has his own news channel. So it's always going to be some elite, some small group of people. That's fine by me. I just
Because
want...
it started with them saying that the press was lying. It started with them saying that, and then later it became the press is lying because it's run by Jews. That is the evolution of that particular talking point. Come on now.
want them to be a good elite. I'm actually kind of pro-elite if the elite aren't just disgusting dirtbags like they are today.
So you like your hierarchy, how very conservative and Catholic
I know,
of you.
you know, it's a bit Catholic.
Yeah.
I want it to be a good elite.
I want good oppression. That's what my dad
oppression,
always
let's
told
liberate.
me. He was like, Lauren, this is not a democracy when I was growing up. This is a benevolent dictatorship.
Yes. But right now we're living in a malevolent dictatorship.
Yes.
That's right. And the family's not a democracy.
See, again, guys, when they talk about this shit, they believe democracy is already dead, and therefore it would be a positive change to install a benevolent dictator on top of it. You know, that is what they're saying. Don't a lot of conservatives fucking despise Catholics? It's a Roro, yes, but Michael Knowles is what is called a tradcath, essentially a fascist Catholic. We haven't unlocked makeup yet? No, we need 3 more subs. Also, my rear end, sorry, I'm just getting heated at this video, and it came out at you. Sorry. We cool. We cool.
The kingdom of heaven's not a democracy.
Yeah.
So the media's never going to be a democracy. I just don't want it to be so damn malevolent. Is that
Very
too much
true.
to ask? It probably
So
is.
if we can just have correct, horrible, rich elites, that would be great.
Yeah, like, who knows? I mean, you know, not all rich people are bad, just most of them. Okay.
I actually know what the phrase "the New World Order" means.
It's a wrestling phrase.
I'm gonna let you go first. Yeah, I mean,
They're just laughing around their anti-Semitism here.
Go for it.
Yo, Joanna! Thank you for the $50 dono!
Susan's already going to kick us off anyway.
I mean, it's a group of elites with interests that are generally opposed to the average working class individual and generally want to acquire more power for themselves and have a lot of control over the banks, our media, our politics, government, souls.
It's been true since the beginning of the world. This is the funny thing. I mean, people go back. They say, George H.W. Bush used the phrase in a presidential address. Okay. Or so-and-so, or this guy, or whatever said this. It goes back, as Whittaker Chambers says, to the Garden of Eden, when the serpent in the garden tells...
No, they can't be that overt about it quite yet. But we're getting much closer to a time when they can just say it. My guess would be that if Republicans take the presidency, the House, and the Senate in 2024, you will start seeing people just outright saying Jews instead of all of the couched terminology.
tells Eve, ye shall be as gods, right? The idea of the New World Order, which really comes into fashion in modernity, in the post-Enlightenment, is this idea that we're going to upend every tradition that we ever had, every stable social institution, every country, we're just going to upend all of it, and through our unfettered reason, we're going to create this utopia on Earth. And we're going to do it. It's not going to be very democratic the way we do it. We're going to shut you down and take away your traditions and turn your boys into girls and your girls into boys. We're going to do, but it's...
Ah, yes, the authoritarian feminization camps that will surely be arising soon.
The thing about the New World Order is that the past is always evil, the present is always a crisis, and the future is always going to be great. Just give us a little bit more power.
This time we'll get it right.
This time we'll get it right.
This time we've got it, we swear, yeah.
Yeah, that's to the old order.
To the old order, I love that.
All right. This is me.
I think so.
Being a man has helped
No, they really believe this, Stone Corbell. Like, that's one of the things. That's one of the things about all of this, right? Which is that they play it for comedy. But for conservatives, comedy is just what they believe, reflected back at them. Conservative comedy is just is just jokes until it's not anymore. You know? It's the 4chan stuff. You know, you go onto 4chan's poll board and you see a lot of people posting those memes with Jewish caricatures on it and talking about how, haha, Jews only care about money, and it's just jokes, until suddenly you actually are anti-Semitic. Until suddenly you do believe that all Jewish people care about is money. It's all just jokes until you actually do believe that you should be able to call black people N-words. You know, like, that is how conservative rhetoric is really mainlined in a big way. These people do not give a shit about the facts. What they give a shit is about propagandizing, and they will just continue doing that for as long as they can until their jokes become reality. Now, I'm seeing something in chat. Joe Biden student debt. Okay, so the Biden administration did forgive $5.8 billion in student debt for 560,000 borrowers, which is pretty cool, I guess, for real. But, and here's the big asterisk here, while that's good, it was specifically only for former students of the Corinthian colleges chain. So there was a chain of for-profit colleges called Corinthian colleges, and they basically got scammed out of all of their money with worthless degrees. Yeah, basically one of the most notorious cases of fraud in college university history. All of those students had to be, or still owed the defunct college billions of dollars in money. So essentially, Joe Biden has officially stepped in and forgiven their debt after it collapsed, like its entire business model and university model collapsed in 2015. So it is good that this is getting erased. I don't want to minimize that. But it's also a far cry from the full amount of college debt, which is, let's see, $1.75 trillion. The total here, you know what? I'm just going to put it on screen, okay? I'm just going to put this on screen real quick. We're going to size it down. Ooh. Nikella, thank you very much for subscribing. Here, I'll update that. We're at 73. All right. Now, so Joe Biden has forgiven $5.8 billion. So I'm going to write that down. All right. 5.8 right? All right. That is a sizable amount of money, okay? Now, how much remains, right? So 1.75 Okay. So this is essentially how much was forgiven. Okay? So this is like 1%, not even 1% of the What do we have to do? Is just make college free? Yes, and the best way to do that would be to forgive college debt. Dance Queens, thank you very much for coming. Hope you're doing well. Kua Mom, thank you very much for the follow. So while this is good, it is good that this number is forgiven, that this lower number is forgiven. It is a far cry from what needs to be done. It is a far cry from what needs to be done. And frankly, what would be extremely good for midterm turnout would be if Joe Biden made this like a weekly thing. You know, if Joe Biden weekly canceled chunks of student debt, that would be extremely, extremely good for Democrats. Yeah, it was 0.3% of the collective debt. Jesus. Yeah, like, the idea here would be that essentially from now until midterms, every week, Joe Biden forgives student debt. That would be the best way to show him actually doing something and showing Democrats actually doing something. But it remains to be seen if Democrats even have the stomach. Because, I mean, like, how many weeks until midterms? How many weeks are there until midterms? Weeks until 2022 midterms. Okay. Okay, it should be November 8th for the midterms, okay? So, from now until November 8th is essentially 3, 4, 5, around 5 months, okay? Joe Biden has 20 weeks. If you multiply 20 times 0.3, you get 6, okay? If he forgave a similar amount of debt every week from now until then, you'd get about 6% of the national student debt relieved, which is a far cry from all of it. Still pretty good, but it would be a very impressive sounding number without functionally changing much about the student debt program in the United States. Yeah, forgive all of it, Joe Biden. You won't. So my hypothesis at this point would be that this is the strategy that they're going to go with, because Democrats will be able to tout the actual number without talking about the actual percent of how much of the student debt that they're actually forgiving. They'll be able to be like, hey, Joe Biden's doing all of this for us, without actually having to do anything, without actually having to make substantial change to the student debt system that is going to continue to grow, by the way. And then, you know, what would be the really based move is to continue that up until the 2024 election and then just forgive all of it. That would be fucking based. Yeah, he could forgive 10 billion every week from now till the election and it still wouldn't do anything. I mean, it would do things for the people affected, KBS, but it doesn't meaningfully change the overall system that has people locked under $1.75 trillion of debt, you know? So, that's unfortunate. He'd like auto win if he did one thing, right? Exactly. But he has to fully do the one thing, you know? Doing like a fraction of a percent change is not going to be the auto win, you know? Dance queens, right? And it's money we're crushed under. All right, we're almost done with this. Stay with me, folks.
Helped my career. This is me.
I think so.
Being a man has helped my career. Dare I ask why you would say no? For me?
I think that there's an assumption from a lot of, definitely people on the right, that being a woman will further your career just by virtue of being hot, which isn't always the case for being a woman, by the way, so that's an assumption. Mm-hmm. And also just by being rare, the scarcity in the right wing. So because you are a right-wing commentator, you might assume that being a woman and being more scarce as a right-wing commentator would assist.
Women are probably as represented among conservatives as men, but among commentators, they're much rarer.
Correct.
That's a good point. That's true. That's true. Listen, I'm of Italian extraction, okay? I'm a very traditional guy. I like to think that whatever charms I may possess, they're more of a masculine aspect, okay? I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't know how to be a woman. And furthermore, if I were a lady, would I be doing all of this? Would I be putting myself through this rigmarole, this monstrous sort of life?
I assume you've seen a lot of the left reaction to Depp v. Heard verdict a very different way than we have. I'm not exactly sure what you mean. I've been streaming like this entire time. We're going on a 5-hour-long stream so far, so I have not seen the online reaction.
In and day out, miring myself in the muck and the yuck of the liberal madness and going out and I'd find a rich guy. I'd find a rich hunk, and
No, this isn't the movie. This is Lauren Southern going on Michael Knowles' drinking game show.
Would batten down the hatches, and I'd have a good life.
Yeah.
So I guess you're right. It hasn't helped my career. I'd have a much better career if I were a lady.
Turning into a man was absolutely helpful to my career. That video did great. On an unironic level, though, there is the fast track if you are a woman that you can choose, where you can sleep your way to the top. Like, that is an option for women.
There is. That's totally
real. You can do that. But there's the other side where...
Oh, really? Who do I have to sleep with? I would love to get to the top. JK, Clarice, I love you so much. I would never do that. Bye.
If you choose not to, it will genuinely hurt you. A lot of people do not take rejection well, and they will get you back for that as a woman. And, I can legitimately say I have lost opportunities for rejecting guys.
I didn't want to press too much, but so you've experienced this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to feminists have made it so hard to talk about any legitimate.
What's his name? What's his phone number? Where do I get him?
Yeah. How do I dox him? And then they also complain about a guy vaguely flirted with me, that's rape or whatever. It's just made it impossible to talk about genuine problems in this. But if you reject a guy, or maybe it probably happens the other way around too with women, that jilted reaction, especially amongst highly narcissistic personalities, can be disastrous.
Hell hath no fury.
Hell hath no fury.
Like a narcissist scorn.
Exactly. So I would say that there are benefits, and there are absolutely women that can use that to their advantage. But if you don't know how to use that, and you aren't someone who wants to take advantage of that, then everything comes with a flip side, right?
That's true.
I would genuinely, going in.
Hey, Little Money! Thank you very much for subscribing. We'll add that one to the list as well. We're up to 75. We just need 25 more subs total to hit 100, and we will be able to go and change into that outfit. Tulsa, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, and a high school in California. Yeah.
Filming my documentaries, I would prefer to be a man while doing that, just for safety reasons.
Yeah, running around South Africa.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's probably a better idea to be a fella.
And then you get imposter syndrome too, because it's do people actually like it? Is it actually a good documentary, or is it just because I'm a woman?
I know. That's what I always ask myself. I said, do people really like my commentary, or is it just because I'm sexy?
Is it
just
hard.
because I'm hot?
It is neither.
hot to trot.
It's so hard to be you.
It is hard. I did find this in Hollywood though. I would go, I'd walk in, to the big lots, knock on Mr. Weinstein's door. I say, Mr. Weinstein, I'm yours. I'm here. I'm here to be a big star. And I don't know. Then the door would slam in my face.
I'm really sorry that happened to you.
I know. I guess it's probably better. It's probably good that the guy's behind bars now. It's probably good. But I don't know if it helped.
Why is she laughing? I don't understand. The joke is that he wasn't sexually abused by Weinstein? Is this Lauren Southern? Yes.
My career.
I'm really sorry that happened to you. Truly, his rejection of you is the real crime.
That's On that note, Lauren, one last drink. Cheers.
One last drink. Cheers. This was great.
Thank you. To your health. If there's someone that you would like to see me play the game with.
No. I'm good. Though again, a very insightful video. A very insightful video.